So some good news. The Saudis have said that they will invite Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, to a summit in May that's going to take place next month, an Arab League summit. And why is this good for Syria? Well, Saudi Arabia, again, let's not forget, is one of the countries that helped to destroy Syria. They supported God knows how many groups, extremist, takfiri, jihadist groups. And I think the consensus now, not just in the Arab world, but internationally, all over the globe, is that, well, look, we tried everything to get rid of Bashar al-Assad, and this guy is still there, and we can't do anything about it. We cannot do a thing about it. And so now they're normalizing ties with Syria again, right? You could call it a rapprochement, right? And this is very important. I'll just show you this quickly here. This is from Reuters, right? So they were saying that Saudi Arabia is planning to invite Bashar al-Assad to an Arab League summit that will take place in Riyadh, in the capital. Three sources familiar with the plan said, a move that would formally end Syria's regional isolation. Yes. The Saudi foreign minister, Prince Faisal, you guys need to watch Lawrence of Arabia, by the way. Prince Faisal bin Farhan will travel to Damascus in coming weeks to hand Bashar al-Assad a formal invitation to attend the summit scheduled for May 19th. The Saudi government's communication office, they won't confirm any of this, but this is basically a done deal. And Assad's attendance at an Arab League summit would mark the most significant development in his rehabilitation within the Arab world since 2011, when Syria was suspended from the organization. I don't even know how you can have an Arab League without Syria, right? I've told you this before. This is a saying in Arabic. There's a phrase that Surya qalb al-arub al-nabita. It's the beating heart of Arabism. So it's like you literally took out the most important, part of it, and what do you have there? A hollow thing. And by the way, they talk about Assad being at the Arab League summit. If you go watch that speech with Gaddafi when he was, when was this? 2008, I think, and it was in Damascus. It took place in Damascus, and he warned them. He warned everybody in the room that what they did to Saddam Hussein. Like he said, we all had disagreements with this guy. But the Americans just coming in and hanging him and executing an entire Arab leadership, you could be next. And you had people laughing in the room. I think Bashar al-Assad was one of them. I don't think because he didn't take it seriously, but, and he was next, actually. Gaddafi and Bashar al-Assad. I mean, it's a weird, sick irony. But that is one of the best speeches that has ever been given. You should go watch it. I really, really, really recommend it. Just to further show you how this rapprochement is taking place. Last month, sources told Reuters that Riyadh and Damascus had reached an agreement to reopen their embassies after the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. So again, this is very, very significant because what did we also see recently? We saw Iran and Saudi Arabia resume ties, and this is really good because look at the difference between what's happening in Europe and what's happening in this region, in the Middle East or West Asia, just in this tiny period of time. Diplomacy, it works, it's nice, right? Now the problem here, and I've spoken about this with many with friends and family, said, how do you forgive the Saudis for what they did to Syria? If you're from Yemen, how do you forgive the Saudis for what they did to Yemen, to Syria? I don't mean the people, al-Sha'ab. I mean the leadership, the government. Because Saudi Arabia was never affected by any of this. Neither in the war in Yemen, neither the war in Syria. Saudi Arabia was always safe and always untouched. But a big player, and in those theaters. So my point is that it's very easy for the Saudis, and I'm not knocking them. I'm not saying they shouldn't do this, but it's very difficult for a Syrian or a Yemeni to just swallow their pride and act like nothing happened. The country's destroyed, man. The country's destroyed, and there are many actors who are also involved. But there has to be a process of reconciliation. Maybe this is it. When I was writing about it on Twitter, I said, perhaps they'll finally, they'll find a way to bury the hatchet, once and for all. I would like to see that, and I'll tell you why. Not because I think it's so easy to forgive Saudi Arabia for what they did to Syria, but at the end of the day, what does Israel and Britain and the United States want more than anything? They want a divided Arab world. They literally came in and drew these fucking borders, right? Sykes-Picot, the French, British. They literally came in and carved everything up and did it in Africa and all over the place. That's their divide and conquer. So, you have to, I guess, in one sense, it really hurts. And in the other, you feel that you have to swallow your pride and mend ties because it's good to have a united Arab world. Do you understand what I'm saying? Here is another important thing. In Egypt, the Syrian foreign minister was received in Cairo. That is crazy. So that's around the exact same time that you're hearing that, Syria is being invited to the Arab League summit. And the Syrian foreign minister is in Cairo. Egypt is no, is a big player, right? Egypt and Syria used to be one country, by the way, which I like. The thing is that Egypt was very dominant. Many people didn't like it. It was an imbalanced relationship. But the idea of it, again, a united Arab world is good. It's important. It's the only way of fighting European colonialism effectively, or one of the most effective ways. But I just wanted to show you this quickly with the. I had a clip of them speaking. It was this one. Here's the Syrian foreign minister. First time that he visits Egypt in over 10 years. So these things that are happening now are very, very significant. Like, it's the first time you're seeing Arab countries talking to Syria in a decade, man, in a decade. This is so important. There you have the Egyptian foreign minister, Shukri, and that's him. And then on the left, you have Faisal Maghdad. First time they speak together in over a decade. I mean, this is really important. And then on top of that, we're not done. We're not done. I got more coming for you. Look at this. In the UAE, Bashar al-Assad. Now, this is, mind you, this is 2 weeks ago, right? So what I showed you now with Egypt and Saudi Arabia is this week, but this is 22nd of March. Look, you have Bashar al-Assad going to the UAE. And before that, you had the foreign minister of the UAE coming to Damascus. But, the head of state, the Syrian head of state going there, that's even more significant. So, I mean, look at this, man. Just look at this. Crazy, right?
فحان الوقت أن سوريا ترجع إلى محيطها.
نعم.
إلى إخوانها.
Yep. Yep. They rolled out the red carpet for him and everything, right? I mean, that's normal during a visit from a head of state, but it's good to see this, man. It's heartwarming, and this is what I'm telling you, man. It's not just because it's Syria. This is nice, productive diplomacy, not destructive war and fighting. And it's nice to see some things, ties getting better. Iran and Saudi Arabia, UAE and Syria, Egypt. Syria. This is what we need. This is what we need, especially when everything in Europe is falling apart and affecting the rest of the planet. It's not it. I should have said this earlier when we talked about the assassination of Tatarsky. But they talk about all these European values, the democratic values. What? Fighting? Killing journalists? What do you mean? Why don't you show me diplomacy? I want to see diplomacy, real diplomacy, engaging with one another. No. Oh, let's buy more weapons and yes. So, this is from the official Twitter from Mohammed bin Zayed. He said, "I welcomed President Bashar al-Assad of Syria to the United Arab Emirates today, and we held constructive talks aimed at developing relations between our two countries. Our discussions also explored ways of enhancing cooperation to accelerate the stability and progress in Syria and the region." Now, this brings me to another point. You see how he says stability, progress. what he's saying, what he means by that is rebuilding Syria. Now, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like he's in it for the money or something. Not at all. Not at all. Syria has to be rebuilt, whether the world likes it or not. It has to be done. But I'm a bit wary of people maybe looking at the situation in Syria, and I'm not saying it's the UAE, but just in general, and thinking, it's a nice juicy meal ticket, or it's an easy ride to make some money. And this happened before many countries. You can look at Afghanistan, you can look at Iraq. Oh, we're rebuilding for example, the armed forces there. Yeah, we got to get them all these helmets. We got to get them the boots. They're making money for their friends and the corporations, right? It's a scam. I wouldn't say scheme. It's both a scheme and most particularly of all, a scam, right? Now, hopefully that won't happen with Syria. China, for example, is a country that did not send jihadists or weapons to anyone in Syria, and is ready to help Syria rebuild, right? The Caesar sanctions they've really tried to squash Syria and isolate it. And it's so nice to see countries just say, like, you know what, screw you. We're going to engage with Syria. These are our brothers. This is, a pillar of Arabism, of Islam, of our society and our region and our culture and our history. It's good to see this, man. That's all. I just wanted to show you, though, that things are coming together, right? Like faster than ever. You got Jordan reestablishing, with the rapprochement, Egypt, UAE, Saudi Arabia. What I'm waiting for is Qatar. How's that going to take place? Because Qatar, like I told you, armed a lot of groups in Syria to overthrow the government. Turkey's another one. Turkey's not an Arab nation, but it is Syria's neighbor, and it is a majority Muslim country. So how is Turkey going to mend ties with Syria after everything? Because Erdogan has indicated he's willing to, accept Bashar al-Assad. How generous of him. But I think it's awkward for these guys. Don't you think it's awkward? Like, after trying to kill someone for 10 years, you invite them over for tea? Not this photo here, or video in Egypt, but like the other ones are a bit awkward. Jesus. I would feel horrendous, man. Like, I'm sorry, bro. We tried to kill you. Maybe we shouldn't have done. God. Oh, man. Anyway, let's see how this goes, and you can see it's snowballing, right? So let's hope it gets better and faster, and most important of all, that people in Syria have their standard of living rise, that they can actually live and have a good standard of living as well. Right, a good infrastructure. That's my dream. I want Syria to have railways and clean water and everything, and electricity running. It was running 24/7 until the war started. It was getting better. I witnessed that with my own eyes. Syria was getting better every single year. The government was actually making it a better place, and now they set Syria back decades. So there's an arduous process that lies ahead, just politically speaking, Bashar al-Assad, this guy looks like the shit right now. Like, he's the boss. He's emerged from this unscathed. The country suffered, no doubt, and I'm sure him to a certain degree, since he's the leader. But my point is that politically speaking, he has literally emerged like al-Assad, which means lion in Arabic. They have no choice but to welcome him. They have no choice but to accept him. They have no choice but to reestablish ties. And so the awkwardness and the uncomfortable sentiment lies rather with them than with al-Assad. And politically speaking, he's looking very, very strong now. United States, Israel, they're going mad. I think this is one of the reasons why Israel is bombing Syria every day now, not every other week. They can't do anything to stop it. Let's see. Let's hope there's more diplomacy and more rapprochement. Here's the last video. I just showed you this one.